Hi, everybody, and welcome to our session, How Organic Valley Uses AI and Video Insights to Deepen Understanding and Elevate Customer Storytelling. I'm Quirks editor Joe Ridholm. Thanks for joining us. Just a quick reminder that you can use the chat tab if you'd like to interact with other attendees during the discussion, and you can use the Q&A tab to submit questions to the presenters, and we'll get to as many as we have time for at the end. Our session is presented by NIT. Anish, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joe. And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you're calling in from. My name is Anish. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO of NIT. And as Joe mentioned, today, thrilled to be presenting with Trip Hughes over at Organic Valley on how Organic Valley uses AI and video insights to deepen understanding and elevate customer storytelling. If this is your first time hearing about NIT, we are the researcher-driven AI platform helping some amazing brands like Organic Valley, Amazon, T-Mobile, and others go from survey to story in days, not weeks. We do this through our philosophy of researcher-driven AI, where we combine the power of and expertise of human researchers with the efficiency of AI to help them go from a survey to building out an analysis plan, fielding their data, analyzing the data, and ultimately getting to a report that looks and feels like something an expert human researcher would have put together because it has all the context of an expert human researcher. We also combine quant and qual in one single study so that you get the robust what embedded with consumer videos to get to the why behind many of your questions. So with that, I'm excited to formally introduce Trip, the Senior Director of Consumer Strategy over at Organic Valley. Trip, thank you so much for being here today. Really excited to talk through some of the work we've been conducting these last couple of months. And to kick things off, would love to pass it over to you for a quick intro on yourself and your role over at Organic Valley.
Yeah, thanks, Anish. Hi, I'm Trip Hughes. I'm the Senior Director for Consumer Strategy and Brand Strategy over at Organic Valley. We're a farmer-owned cooperative based in rural Wisconsin, but we sell product throughout the U.S. and a few international markets. We've got farmers in approximately 28 states that own and supply the raw materials for the cooperative, and our job on the Organic Valley side is to turn it into value added products and market it. I spend a tremendous amount of time thinking about in talking to and getting in the heads of our consumers to help really direct and drive our strategy. And in that role, I'm constantly looking for partners and systems that can really help us get to things we haven't been able to get to before. And we're going to have a good time getting into that today because NIT really helped us solve something that we were struggling with and is continued to step up the game kind of year after year as we worked with them. Turn it back
Awesome.
to you, Anish.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that, Trip. And before we dive in, Trip, you touched on this a little bit, but Organic Valley is a very unique and mission-driven business, right? You guys are a cooperative, and I think that shows up in how you think about your marketing and research functions and the role of those functions within the business. Can you share a little bit more about how this corporate structure within a highly competitive industry drives how you think about the role of your team and the marketing and research team largely or more in general within the business?
Yeah, for sure. The cooperative business model is really a different type of business model. I wish they taught it at more U.S. business schools. I know they do in Europe a good bit. Um, but being a part of a cooperative is really kind of fundamentally about cooperating. It's about coming together with your partners to try to achieve something that you can't do on your own.
Mhm.
And in the sense, from a marketing cooperative, we've got these family farmers, roughly 1,500 of them across the U.S., living independently, day to day, working, 7 days a week on their family farms. And to help them get to market, they pool together through this cooperative business structure. In that structure, then, we're on the business side, and our role is to figure out how to take this raw material from 1,500 raw material suppliers It happens to be highly perishable. We've got about 24 hours to figure out what to do with the raw product once it comes in and convert it into a finished good, which is often a gallon of milk or a block of cheese or a pound of butter. And once we turn it into those products, we again have a very short period of time to turn it around, get it out to our retail partners, and have them get it into the hands of our end consumers. And so cooperatively, we've always found that when we go to business with a partner, we really do try to treat it like a partnership. We try to treat it as if we're both trying to come out ahead from where we are. The idea of zero sum game is not really a part of the cooperative mentality. And so early on, I saw Anish was doing something really interesting, and I said, "Hey, I don't know where you're going with this. I like what you're doing. I think you can help us right away, and I think you'll continue to help us." And in that partnership, we struck up the ability to do a trial. We struck up the ability to get some tests running. Once those tests, we worked together to give feedback, what was working, what wasn't working. And the team consistently has been so responsive to working with us. And I think in the end, when we help them, it's making their product better too. So it's self-interest in our part, but it also is for the greater good.
Absolutely. Yeah, very much a true partnership mentality working with y'all. And that's been one of my favorite parts about our work together, as well as some of the really cool insights that we'll touch on today. Now, Trip, one of the things that you mentioned early on in our partnership was at Organic Valley, because of how it is structured and because you're trying to make your marketing and research dollars stretch as much as they can. You're always looking to experiment and think about research differently. And I
Right.
think you were one of the first to kind of introduce me to this idea of this research sandwich framework. So we'll kind of go through each step by step, or I guess slice by slice here over the next couple minutes. But before we dive in, could you just kind of set the context for what does the research sandwich framework mean to you? How have you guys thought about this, and when do you think about applying it within the business? Before we dive into the specific kind of ingredients within it.
Well, I mean, of course, the ingredients have to have cheese, but we're covered there. Um, yeah, so we're constantly trying to figure out how to layer in components and how to. Uh, it's rare that we have a partner that solves everything we need to do, and especially as we're getting asked to do more and more with less and less budget. And so being able to go and as I'm working, whether it's through a new concept for a new product and innovation, whether it's working on positioning, whether it's working on insights, what we do is use at several stages of the game. We may start out and do complete open space exploratory. Once we've refined what that exploratory space is, we can quickly cycle back and start to hone in on what the concepts could look like. We pull back again and come back and really make sure we understand what the key motivations, what the key components are. And so it's very much a layered process that we go through. And I think that's really what we're talking about here, building out.
Awesome. So let's dive into each one of those layers. So Trip, to your point, often you're starting off with more of that exploratory layer, and we've been supporting you guys there in your research, and hope to continue doing that as well. Could you speak a little bit more to like how you think about the structure of that? Like tactically, is this quant, qual, some hybrid of the two? And what are you hoping to get out of that first phase of research before you dive into the second and third?
I mean, I'm going to state the obvious. The obvious piece is that you guys were early adopters of being able to do call at scale.
Mhm.
And so where we traditionally might start with a quant or where we traditionally might start with a qual, we're able to do both with you guys. And so we're able to get some of those quantitative questions framed up and understood. And we're immediately able to also start to get some key exploratory in whether it's open ends or what we often do are the video questions.
Mhm.
And those video questions layered on to the quant part of it really kind of gives us a much better framework to start with.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see some examples of those video show reels throughout the presentation today. But from there, Trip, you mentioned you'll kind of use that to kind of explore and frame some of those questions and then dive into the meat of it. No pun intended here with some of the more deeper dives, the in-person explorations. So can you walk through a little bit more, like what is the value you're hoping to get out of that meaty part of the research there, the more deep dives, maybe even in person stuff that you're doing?
Yeah. So I think, as a researcher, as a strategist, I love being able to have conversations with people. And, quant doesn't let us do that. Even open ends don't really let us do that. And so the ability to get in and ask very specific questions is fundamentally key. And I'll give an example of something that I think we're going to share. So we were diving into the topic of wellness with our consumers.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of different aspects around wellness. It's taking care of us, it's self-care, it's nourishing deeply, all these different components. In the first run through with knit, we took apart and were able to deep dive in and get a base of what those core components were. In the second run through with knit, we were able to go in and start to take each of the components apart in depth. This set me up then to where I actually took that information, went out into doing some live ethnographies where we went shop along, we went in store. This wasn't with knit, this was with myself and my strategic partner.
Mhm.
And we found a lot more insights there that we were able to again come back in and double down and confirm kind of the structure of where we thought we were. And so, yeah, I guess I'm jumping ahead of myself just a little bit.
You're good. You're good. And I think, just teasing that out a little bit too, to your point, when you do those deep dive, in this case, you went in person, started talking to customers, you do often have those questions. So could you speak a little bit more about the ability to then being able to double tap into some of those questions through that quant qual? What is that? Where is that unlock the most value for you all?
Well, I think two parts. One is knit's pretty fast, right? And so we do a lot of iterative kind of uh, questioning. And so we'll do a round, we'll get the responses back, we'll find stuff right away that we want to build and incorporate into another round.
Mhm.
And with you guys, we often will shotgun. And so my main first round may have been somewhat singular on topic. Let's say it's wellness. But let's say in that wellness round, we came up with areas around nourishment, around self care, and around living your best life. And we're able to immediately then double tap into each of those in their own round. And again, I may end up getting even more insights out uh, in that round where we may even go one more round further. I'll give you an example. In this go around with you guys, we heard some insights about a key retail partner we were working with. So we circled back and we did another session just focused on the insights around how folks were viewing their shopping and their relationship to health and wellness with this key retailer.
Mhm.
And so it's a beautiful kind of chain that comes together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the kind of layering of the research there, which is why, I think this sandwich metaphor is a great one. So to ground that into some tangible research here, Trip, you mentioned you just wrapped up a pretty deep dive into this, exploring this topic of wellness and how consumers define and live well. There were a couple of themes that we wanted to explore with the audience today. starting with this theme of nourishment and the emotion behind it. Right. I really love this line that you shared with us, which is, at the end of the day, what food feels or what food makes us feel like is just as important of what's actually as what's actually in our food. So why don't we just take a minute here, Trip, if you could expand on some of the insights that you got through this work that was supported by the NIT platform, but also some of those deeper dive kind of ethnographies and in-person stuff that you did. Could you speak a little bit to some of those key insights, what you learned, and how this kind of is being applied across the business today?
Excuse me. Sure. So what we're seeing on the right side of the slide is what nourishment feels like to consumers. Are quotes out of net. And so as we're having these conversations, consumers really get to express it in their own words. We then are able to use NIT's AI, um, excuse me, to go in and organize it and structure it and find key themes. And so to the left side of the page, we're laying out kind of the key theme areas that were starting to emerge as we were specifically talking about nourishment. So again, we started up with a higher level study on wellness. We realized that nourishment was one of the key areas. We came back in, spoke specifically about nourishment, and it's really powerful when I'm able to go back to the team and not just give them the framework structure, but start to give it to them in the language of the consumers as well.
Absolutely. And to your point there, Trip, I just want to take a second here to kind of walk everyone through how you were able to do that on the platform. So, as I mentioned before, the output of NIT is a report that looks and feels like something that an expert researcher would have put together. So, it has all the key takeaways, the insights, recommendations, and next steps. What you'll see here is how we kind of gathered and bubbled up to the top some of those key themes and quotes that Trip talked about. So our AI actually identified all of the key insights around this topic of nourishment, generated a sizzle reel, a show reel, a 1 to 3 minute long video of a compilation of people talking about that theme, which we won't look at right now, but we'll dive into later. It went through and actually explained the rationale behind the analysis, gave a quick summary of what the insights were saying, but then also made it really easy, as Trip mentioned, to find those themes and sub themes down to the respondent level. So if you want to either show the video or pull out those specific quotes, really bringing a theme to life, it's really easy to find that within the data set. And because NIT combines both quant and qual data, you can then cut and slice and dice that data through different lenses. So in this case, if you wanted to cut all those qualitative themes by a quantitative attribute like generation or gender, our AI tool makes that really easy to do. So this kind of brings us to
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say it's to think about 4 years ago when I did qual at any type of scale, and we were hand coding everything, and we were going back and trying to analyze. It was brutal. And what NIT has done in leapfrogging, both in how you're thinking about the structure and organization, plus your technology, has just really enabled. This used to be a $20,000 project,
Mhm.
and we're able to do rounds of it for, I don't know, anywhere from 2,500 to 5,000 or something like that, depending upon how many audience people I'm trying to pull in. Don't use my numbers because you have no idea how many audience I'm talking to. But my point is, I'm able to reduce the cost significantly and get much better results.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that is ultimately what leads to that ability to iterate, as you were talking about. So, another area where we saw the voice of the consumer really come to life, Trip, is around some of the insights that you shared around the context of nourishment, right? Where is it happening? When is it happening? How did this kind of shape how you think about, you know, where organic value or how organic value shows up for its customers?
Yeah, I mean, one of the key pieces is again understanding, if it's starting on the left, what their experience was, and trying to work it back into the understanding of what these moments are. Uh, they talk about, what are the settings. They give us a lot of insights that you would never get on a quant, but um, to get them at scale on a qual was pretty rare. You certainly weren't getting them in open ends. And so my team is always uh, thinking about now what, so what. And so we always have to put it in kind of a framework that helps us understand kind of the full landscape of how the consumer's thinking and what they're talking about. And so, this is this idea of laying out framework and and getting into it makes it so much easier then for my team to pick it up and work with it. And you've talked about show reels too, and so the ability to then come back and put together show reels that can also bring this to life is like the final punch on the pudding.
Yeah. Awesome. And just bringing that ability to life for everyone on the call today. So to Trip's point, being able to really visualize that is super important. So just walk through how we were able to do that on the platform. Once you identify the theme, in this case, social context, how are people kind of where does nourishment pop up around that social connection? You can see the AI identify that theme and the different sub themes there, and then automatically generates this video show reel for you. In this case, it's about a 3-minute video compilation of people talking about those different themes. We make it
And
really
it's super editable too.
exactly, yeah, and we make it really easy to edit. So to Trip's point there, if you wanted to edit one of the videos, you simply highlight or deselect what's been highlighted, and it will cut the data there. And then you can also add your own different elements. So your own branding, your own images, your own videos, and then your own kind of soundtrack as well. We have all the latest hits in the land of elevator music here. So really helps kind of dress up your video a little bit more so that you can share it across the organization. So, Trip, as we wrap things up here and head into Q&A, I just want to drive home some of the key themes that you spoke about in this world of doing more iterative research, running research faster, stretching your dollar as much as you can. I know there were a couple things that stood out to you when it came to working with the knit with our team and the knit platform here. Can you just speak a little bit more to some of those things around the ability to scale qual affordably, the ability to get this research done faster through our AI technology, and again, touch on some of the ways you've been using the different outputs?
Sure. I mean, what I like about knit is the flexibility. And so I may do a project where I'm talking to 10 people. I may do a project where I'm talking to 200 people. And the framework and structure is the same for either one, right? And so this idea of scale is super key. Uh, this idea that I've talked about is we may start with a big group and then we may shotgun out a bunch of smaller groups to really refine some of the ideas. Uh, that the we can do that super easily in terms of we've identified the audiences that we're working with. We know how to move it through. Knit, I think one of the things we talked about is Knit's super great at also helping us set up the surveys.
Mhm.
So understanding what we're trying to get to and how to structure it. In terms of the affordability, I'm going to let you speak to that, but I can say I do this at a fraction of what we used to do it for, and I'm able to do therefore so much more of it. Speed and technology wise, the turnarounds, depending upon how tight of an audience, and Anish knows I work with a lot of tight audiences. Uh, the speed's still pretty darn good, and the speed to report is right there. It's instantaneous. And getting to those final outputs and exports, the customization of of the reports, the ability to we still go back into old data that we've run and pull pieces out that have come up in new research that we've done. somebody may bring up a topic and we're like, oh, hey, let's go back and look at that study we did before and see if this was popping up at all. And it often is. And so the ability to understand and move between uh, the different projects is pretty key for us.
Awesome. Well, Trip, I appreciate you kind of laying out the different ways you've been using it, kind of what stood out to you. And it's just really interesting to hear how you guys have really leaned into that iterative nature of research. I really think, one of the things that you said that really stuck out to me is with a lot of these new technologies, especially a lot of the AI technology out there, NIT included, you can just run new types of research faster at a different scale and at a different price that allows you to maybe run it even more than ever before, and that opens up a lot of new ways about thinking about research and a lot of new cases for research, which it's just been awesome working with you guys this last year or so, seeing that come into play.
One
Now, yeah,
one piece I would say is somebody asked me, is this AI? Are you talking to AI like bots or whatever? And I'm like, no, we're talking to a real audience. AI is just the analytics.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're big believers in talking to your customers directly. So we have a couple minutes here. I'll pass it over to the audience here for any questions. I know we have a lot of folks in the CPG and food manufacturing space, either listening to this webinar after or attending it live. Just want to plug, we did just release a report a couple weeks ago called What's in My Food, that dives into consumer sentiments around artificial dyes, ingredients, super relevant and timely with some of the policy changes happening here in the US. So check it out. We dive deep into a lot of the topics that are helping our partners kind of navigate some of these changes, and would love to share some of those insights with the broader community. So it's available on our website here for free, and we'd love for you guys to check it out. With that, I'll pass it back to the Quirks team for Q&A. I know we have a couple questions here in the chat that hopefully we can get to.
Yeah, it looks like I think, Anish, you would probably be best in addressing these. Just a lot of questions just about recruitment and the audience pool and that kind of stuff. So I guess you could talk about how people are recruited, and then what their time commitment is in terms of the process and all those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I mean, look, we have access to about 60 million plus consumers across the globe. I saw there's a couple questions about B2B and hard to reach audiences. We can definitely do that. You can ask Trip. It sometimes takes a little bit of an iteration to get it completely right, but we're really good at getting some of those niche audiences for you, whether that's like B2B, C-suite, and I think in terms of being able to recruit, one of the things that we put a lot of effort and focus on is high quality data. So we actually have AI that sits on top of our surveys as respondents are taking these surveys that look at 7+ different parameters when it comes to even just the videos. So everything from audio and visual quality to making sure they're speaking on topic, that they are who they say they are. So data quality is something really important to us, and something we work really closely with our partners to fine tune for them.
Sure. Trip, I had a question for you. I'm wondering, with your audience of your farmer customers, or cooperative owners, do they have any issues with or care about using AI or other high tech types of things to gather insights from the end consumers?
It's an excellent question. I mean, so the first thing is we're not using AI to gather insights per se. We're using pretty straightforward video capture tool. The AI is in the analysis part of it. 55% of our ownership are plain community Amish Mennonite. And so uh, the topic of technology, we know that our business uses AI, but it uses it in smart and safe and known ways. And so we understand what the parameters are. Our legal team worked through it on the contract to make sure we've got control of our data and how it's getting used. And so we're in a pretty safe and secure environment in that regard, considering we're a fairly cautious group to begin with. So great question.
Sure. We are out of time. Thanks everybody out there for the great questions. I know the people from NIT can follow up with the question askers later to answer some of their questions. But thanks everybody out there for joining us, and thanks to Anish and Trip for an interesting presentation. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you, Trip, for making the time.
Yeah,
Really appreciate it.
likewise. Thanks.